So the next question that I was asked is there a difference when I eat fiber or can I use a stool softener? What about laxatives? Does it help? So very important question in my opinion, because fiber is very important. Of course, fiber can be important when you have already cleared the path, right? When you've already cleared the path, when your lifestyle is already fixed, rather you have a plan to fix it and you're actually maintaining it, or basically going through a good lifestyle. But if you are stuck with a bad lifestyle, then people tend to take laxatives or all those things, medicines, stool softeners, all those things. There are lots of Ayurvedic medicines, homeopathy medicines, and all those things that people take. I don't think that is really advisable, because what are they tending to do? They are basically trying to maybe bring in more hydration. More, see, people in the market generally think that it is fiber that moves things, because when fiber gets added to the food and it gets into the colon, they become more jelly like. So but when the entire traffic is typically jammed like this, ho- uh, you putting you putting some fiber in the end, right? Will it actually clear all these things? It's just common sense. I don't think it actually clears. So people who tend to take laxatives, people who tend to take medicines for their constipation, end up with the same problems over a period of time. So it might, when things are partially clogged up, they may see some benefits, but then they'll eventually get into a problem where the entire thing becomes jammed. Why it actually gets jammed is um, these laxatives and chemicals and whatever medicine, whether it is homeopathy medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, these are meant to be anti-inflammatory. And what they do is they basically shut down the natural operation of the muscles, and they tend to make the muscles even more lazy. So you are going against the nature of the body if you take medications for all these things. And in my personal experience of dealing with cancer patients, ulcerative colitis, and many of these ulcers related to the bottom portion of the body, the pelvic region of the body, whatever organs they may be, they have been on laxatives or antacids or any of those things. Typically, they are so dangerous. Antibiotics, they are so dangerous that they tend to spoil the entire flora of the gut, and all these issues tend to crop up. So I wouldn't advise any laxatives. So like in my last video, I have spoken about, if you are suffering from chronic constipations, I would ask you to first switch to liquids. How many ever days it takes, it is okay to even do it for a few days. So of course, if you are having other complications, I would advise you to contact me, and then we will work through it. But I definitely wouldn't put you on any medicines, or not even any fruits or vegetables. It doesn't work. At least in my opinion, it doesn't work. I'm sure there are people who think it works. No questions there. But I'm just sharing what I know. So in this case, I would put you on on liquids, and I definitely wouldn't recommend any laxatives, any kind of medicines, any kind of stool softeners, anytime in your life. Please fix your lifestyle. Please work on your lifestyle, and we can definitely work that out, right? So I think I answered that question. So fiber is definitely important, and you cannot. So fiber and liquids. I've spoken about that combination in a previous video, so please take a look at that. So I have already answered this question. And does probiotic help in constipation or gut issues? Probiotics. Um, so probiotics are what? Probiotics are basically grown, are germs or like yeast and other bacteria, um, which are grown on food that is dead, isn't it? So what are prebiotics? Prebiotics are basically germs that are healthy, that are good for the body, and they are found on living food, living fruits, living vegetables, living greens, which have seen the all kinds of weather, the sun, the sunny weather, the winter, the rainy seasons, and whatnot. They've basically seen it all, and they have stood that all those challenges. They are the ones which are protecting. They protect the plants. They protect us. So that is what is called prebiotics. Now, probiotics, what do they do? Probiotics are these days very big in the market. They People typically ferment things. People purposely ferment foods, and then they have, of course, we have our idlis, dosas, and breads, and many of those things. See, when the gut is really bad, I wouldn't advise on any fermented food, because what do these do? These, when the food has, when the life component has left that food, when left that living food, there are scavenger germs like yeasts, fungi, and all those kinds of germs. Their fundamental job is to take that food, decompose that food, and take it back to the soil. Because everything that is available, that is organic on the planet, has to go back to the soil and then eventually come up into some, becomes a human being or a plant or an animal or whatnot, or food or whatnot, right? So they have to go back to the soil. That is the job of those germs. So what do they do? As we don't have to invite them, they just come on foods that are dead. So typically any food, uh, like yogurt for that matter, the milk, in the milk component of that food has already, uh, the milk is fresh, it is milk. So when it has become yogurt, when the milk is sitting there for some time, and then it is purposely there is a starter that is added. What does that starter do? It is also having these kind of germs, and then they start uh, doing their magic. Because over a period of time, it's not like the germs basically kill that food or something like that. Over a period of time, the shelf life expires, and then the life component moves out. That is when these germs start to act up. First is the yeast that works its magic. Um, it consumes the sugar component of that thing, and then it extracts the glucose from that, and then it start consuming, and then it releases gas. So, and then over a period of time, the other germs will follow based on the stages of decomposition. So now, if you have a probiotic, a food that is dead, so you put it into your stomach. So typically, these germs don't tend to last in the gut or the stomach environment, because there's an acidic component in the stomach, which is hydrochloric acid. So when do people need probiotics? Is when their gut is already in a very compromising situation, and they will want when to keep that in order. They constantly want to keep, they think that they'll always have to keep feeding probiotics. So what happens when you actually feed these things is, in these kind of conditions, the HCl's potency would have already reduced because of various other issues which I've explained in the previous video. So the HCl's potency would have reduced, the acidity of that HCl would have reduced. The gut is already in a compromised state. So you'll already be having a lot of all these scavenger germs sitting there, with the food, decomposed food, and many of those things sitting there. So it is not in a great shape. So you will see that things are getting fermented and putrefied and all that. So there's a lot of gas and pains and all those things that are, you know that things are not okay. That is typically when people think that I need probiotics. So what happens when you actually have these things is, there are live cultures inside that, right? So that goes inside, and then those germs basically feed on the dead food that is already inside. And then for some time people think that I am actually feeling that relief, because now the food is already inside, is in the process of work in progress by these kind of germs, scavenger germs, new scavenger germs that you intake through the probiotics. But then you'll come back to the same problems, because these germs which have actually gone in suddenly find that there is no food, and again you'll have the same issue. Or this food that has gone in did not get digested properly, because what really works the digestion process, because you should have proper prebiotics in there. the gut flora has to be really good because they have to feed the food and then they'll have to release molecules which eventually goes into the bloodstream and all those things. So if they are not there because you didn't feed proper food to those germs and you kept eating things that are not meant for the human body, what happens? Those germs die. And what happens to dead produce or dead organic stuff? The scavenger germs are meant to take them back to the soil. So now there is dead bacteria also, and there is food that is dead. They will be again handled by these bad bacteria. And again, these things don't have any symbiotic relationship with the human beings or any animal for that matter. So when there is no symbiosis, that is, there is no intention of symbiosis, they tend to uh, basically think that this is at home, and then this body has a lot to offer in terms of dead food. So I can actually sit there, make my home. They'll invite their relatives, and then they'll multiply and things like that. So lots of issues like this happen. So um, yeah, that is why I don't recommend probiotics for all these constipations and gut issues because you're just going to add more to the pile. Ideally, I would ask you to uh, initially, I would probably ask you to go on some juice diet to just reset the gut for some time, and then over time start off afresh because I wouldn't really like to start off on a road that is already clogged. So I like I I I, I feel that the road has to be open when such things start, unless we have a condition that we are working with where I cannot really put them on fluids. So, yeah, that is about the probiotics. Next is somebody asked me if I have beetroot, I get constipated. So there are many foods that sometimes make a person uh, what do you say, act up. Even I used to actually feel nauseated or nauseous when when I had beetroot in form of juice. I could have it in the form of um, solids, which is grated form or cooked form, but I wouldn't be able to stomach the juice. Of course, at that time I had quit beetroot in the form of juice, but then over a period of time, maybe about 3 4 years later, 2 3 years later, I have definitely started including beetroot. I started trying little by little, and I realized that I'm actually not nauseous anymore. So the reason why that happens is the pigment in the beetroot would, because many of these juices or many of these fruits, vegetables, they create a detoxing environment in the body because they have acidic and alkaline enzymes which work on the cleansing of the gut. So sometimes the body wouldn't be able to tolerate um, these kinds of strong actions from these producers. So that is when these kinds of issues happen. So I would ask you to work on the fluids and fixing, or wait for some more time to get these foods into the body. So yeah, that is what I think we can do. Also, what also happens is when you eat, um, I think I'll cover it that in the next one. Farting and gas and bowel movements. So again, farting is again typically that the gas that gets produced in the large intestine, in the transverse colon, um, because the germs there basically eat the food and then they pass gas. Sometimes when you have foods like beans and all that, they are okay kind of gas. They are not too bad a gas. But then when you have old food sitting there and then you're passing gas, that is something that I would definitely not recommend. So look at your lifestyle. If you are passing bowel movements on a regular basis, as per the previous questions, then occasionally if you're passing gas because of the foods that you're eating, so you can also maybe go to the potty and then start eliminating past the motions. But otherwise, if it's too bad, then yeah, please go sit and then um, push and then see if you can start off the abdominal uh, movement and things like that and then pass. Okay. Thanks. Next video, please. Next.